Peace, people. Welcome to the latest episode of Rough Draft. I am your host, Kevin Alberto Sabio, and in this episode, I'll be talking about my seventh book release called Drum Speaking Tales from An Inner City Griot. Now, my book Drum Speaking is my seventh book released. I published that book back in 2016, so the book has been out for at least 4 years. That is my short story anthology. It is a collection of at least 13 stories that I have. And they span various genres from political thriller to action adventure to romance to science fiction to dramas and a few others. I also have um, a Chronicles of Black Fist story up in there, and I also have what would be considered a sequel to the Demure Knights novel. So I actually came up with the concept for that book number of years ago. So the original concept about it was supposed to be a collection of short stories, but they were supposed to take place in one particular city. So the original title of that was supposed to be Inner City Blues. And so all the stories that were supposed to be involved in that anthology were supposed to take place in this one nondescript, unknown city that I didn't even come up with a name with at the time. But the more that I started writing a lot of the stories and developing them, some of them didn't take place in that city. And so again, like specifically with the sci-fi stories, it's like some of them didn't even take place in like contemporary times. So I just thought, well, I have all these different stories. Why not just put them all in there? So I would just have to change the concept a little bit. And it's still an anthology, but instead of just like kind of conceptually having take place in one central location, it was just like just a bunch of different stories. Some of them, specifically the sci-fi stories, could be considered Afrofuturist. Like I said, you got the other political thrillers. There's a story in there called Nation Within a Nation. I believe that's the second story up in there. Um, and it's kind of a political intrigue because it's an, a group of people, an organization, which is kind of part of the Black Fist universe, because they're members of an organization called Africana Pride. So that's something that's actually I wouldn't say prominent, but it's part of like the storyline in this book. So Africana Pride is not only from the Chronicles of Black Fist book series, but it's also somewhat involved in two of the short stories up in here. So I believe that they exist in Nation Within a Nation, and also there is this short story, Black and Brown, a love story. I think story two. So that guy is actually that's a particular story where there's a guy who kind of has been living a little bit of a life of a lie. So he's actually a political activist. He's been on the run, and so he's actually from the Northeast. He moved to the South, changed his name, changed his whole identity, and he's been chased by the feds ever since. And then so he ends up actually getting caught. His wife does not know anything about his political past. They're married. She's about to have their child. Literally, she's like 8, 9 months pregnant. So all of a sudden, this shit happens, and the feds just come and they invade their workspace, which they work at a hospital in food service, and they come and they arrest him. And so he's a member of Africana Pride, kind of their vanguard, their underground combat wing. So he's been on the run because they have these charges against him, saying that he was trying to do a whole bunch of different crazy political terrorist things, which obviously is bullshit. But to get on with the story, there's that. There's for my recent book, Time Will Reveal. Um, there's actually the what could be considered a prequel to it, a prequel story to it called Time Will Reveal: The Autonomy Wars. That is actually the very first chapter in the novel. I decided to keep it and make it part of the book. So that is also in there. There's a kind of a another sci-fi story up in there called The Adventures of Don Piero Valiente. So I'm kind of it's sci-fi. It's kind of like a an anime idea that I had, which takes a whole bunch of twists on like slavery in Latin America and kind of twisting that history and putting it in kind of like a future context. So it follows the story of this one space knight called Don Fierro Valiente. So he's well, I don't use the term African, but he's a maroon. So he's the only maroon knight within the entire Royal Armed Forces. So it's just kind of the trials and tribulations that he deals with. Being the only black person in this basically this all white institution, specifically this military institution. So a lot of people obviously don't show him any very much respect or any at all. And he always has to prove himself, you know, say that he belongs here, that he's a good soldier, and that he's got skills and he ought to be respected, you know, saying specifically, despite what he looks like. So there's that that's in there. Let me see. One of the characters from the Chronicles of Black Fist series, the Hood Rat. Um, I actually, it's a little, I wouldn't say it's a origin story, but it's the very first short story that I have up in there. It's basically he's about helping people. So in this story where I kind of introduced that character, and if you got the Chronicles of Black Fist Fear of the People, that's where you actually see Hood Rat a little bit more developed as a character in that book. But in Drum Speaking, I kind of give him an introduction. That's his introduction to the world, well, to the whole universe as well. My literary universe, my crazy brain. Um, oh, and like I said, there is a Chronicles of the Black Fist story. He travels overseas. He's actually on a mission. He's tracking down some gun runners. He goes to Ghana and he meets another crime fighter named Moyo. And Moyo is kind of like a Superman type of character that I made up in there. So and I'm actually currently writing the third book in the Chronicles of the Black Fist series, and I'm including this particular story. So definitely, if you pick up Drum Speaking, that's kind of a preview of what's going to be in book three and some of the stuff that I'm trying to do with that book. So I'm trying to introduce a lot of different diasporic characters. So this is kind of like something that is inspiring for me. And like I said, the book's been out for. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on with it, but the book has, like I said, has been out for 4 years. It's available in both paperback and ebook formats. Um, haven't gotten a whole lot of feedback from it. Not too many reviews. That kind of pissed me off. The only review I really got was from my mother, who's no longer here. I lost her in 2019. But she was very impressed. She was very surprised. She was just, "How did you come up with all these different stories?" I'm like, "Ma, I have no fucking idea." Like that's just the mind of a writer, you know. So it's just like I've always got something going on in my head. The other cool thing about this is like a lot of stuff in Drum Speaking. Um, as far as short stories, I mean, obviously I told you about my history as a screenwriter. That's how I started my writing career. Some of these projects, yeah, obviously, The Adventures of Don Piero Valiente, that was actually supposed to be a cartoon. Obviously, Chronicles of Black Fist originally started off as a cartoon. Tales of the Hood Rat, even though he's part of the Black Fist universe now, he was supposed to be kind of like a standalone character. And then the eventual evolution of Concrete Jungle Zoo Crew, but I ended up putting that and including it in the Chronicles of Black Fist universe, so that's going to be in that novel series. Again, if you bought book two, that shit's in there. So even Nation Within the Nation was originally supposed to be it was supposed to be a movie idea that I had. Never really completed it. Still trying to write as a fucking novel. So that's up in there. There's another story in there called Father Figure, whereas this young lady was raised by this man. She's his stepdaughter. He married her mom when she was about 2 years old, raised her as his own, you know, saying treats her as if she was his firstborn child. You know, they don't have any blood relation, but in the story in Father Figure, she's held this man up to a pedestal, and then all of a sudden she ends up beating this child that he apparently had out of wedlock, and bad enough that he has a child out of wedlock outside of his marriage to her mother. Um, she's white, half white, I should say. Her father just big racial advocate and whatnot. So father figure is kind of like, whoa, damn, how do I really, you said perceive this man like he's the standard of manhood I've always had. And he's been the one to be there for me and raise me when my own biological father didn't. And like now I find out this about him. You know, so Father Figure is an interesting story. That was kind of another film idea that I had that I never got a chance to finish. And so it was like, I just thought it made a great story. So I included that in there. But yeah, as I was saying, not much feedback. Wish I could get some feedback. John Speaking, I think, is an excellent book. I just wish I could get the support for it that I feel it deserves. Again, like I said, it's available in paperback format. So if you go to Amazon, if you go to Barnes and Nobles, if you go to Books a Million, it's available there. It's also available in ebook format. So if you go to the general ebook channels, Kindle, Nook, iTunes, Kobo, what else? 24 Symbols, Scribd, libraries are able to get it through like Overdrive, Biblioteca, and Hoopla, and there's one more. Oh, Baker and Taylor. They're available there for libraries. And I just wish I could get like the support and the feedback for that because I think that that's it's one of my more slept on projects. Um, I promote it when I can. I don't heavily promote it, I will admit that, but it's something that I think is a great project that deserves to be supported by readers. So thank you very much for paying attention to this edition of the Rough Draft. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment and definitely subscribe, share. So thank you very much for paying attention to this episode. Looking forward to episode 14. Shit, this is 13, going to 14. Wow. So thank you very much. Keep the fist raised. I'm always on my literary grind. Talk to you soon, people. Peace.